Okay, this video is about styling lists in InDesign, and we won't go through everything that InDesign offers, but we'll look at a good amount of things. So what I've done here is I've typed these 3 lines of text, right? These are 2 short items. It was 1 longer line, right? And this line just kind of, right, will wrap around and have multi-lines at a certain size, right? So I have this size, and I want to turn this into a list. So we don't want to, in InDesign, go ahead and type individual things like that, right? We want to let InDesign mark those as lists. So I'm going to highlight the text I want to be this way, and I'm going to, if I have the T tag, the type tool selected, right, I can go into the paragraph styling in this here, and we see right here I can make it into a bulleted or a numbered list, right? So let's just use a bulleted list, right? And here we are. Now we've got some choices we can make here on our list. And again, the whole point of this class, right, is no defaults. So this is the amount of distance that the list has, right? Is it a good amount of distance? Probably not. What we want to do is, if we look again in our paragraphs in our type tool, right, we can actually change the distances of that. Whoops. So we'll notice that it's a little dance between these two because the bullets can't go outside of the frame. So you have to figure out, well, how do I get it? Maybe that's a more appropriate thing, right? Maybe this is where you want to set them, right? You could also, right, change the, right, we could change this, right, and bring that there. It really just depends on what you want to do with the list. Also, default is bullet. You can use more than bullets. So this is actually kind of hidden, again, in InDesign. But if you look on the top right, you'll see this little hamburger menu. Click on this, and we see this bullets and numbering. So we could change the bullet character, right? I can make it an asterisk. You know, there's these ones. If I wanted to, I can add a different symbol. So if I look through my font, right, I'm in Minion Pro, which has some interesting things. I will find, and of course I just saw it 2 seconds ago when I was trying this out for this video. But again, it can just be anything you want. I'll use, this is what I was looking for right here, right? And I add it, I say OK, and now I'll make the list that, right? So I've made these different things. I'll hit OK, and here we are, right? I've got this different list, right? I'm hitting the W button so I can check it. Now, here's one thing you have to think about when you're styling lists, and that's think about our proximity and our air, right? If I go in and I change say the leading, right, on this, what happens? Well, these look like almost like 4 items in the list despite this having this thing, right? We don't want to use leading to really separate our lists, so let's set our leading back to normal here. Oops, I'm just going to leave it at auto, which is fine. Actually, you know what, I'm going to do 12 and 16, and then we should actually, I don't like that, I'm going to do 12 and 15 with this font. And we should actually use space after, right? So space after is behind in the paragraph section, and we find space after, and here we go. We've added space after, right? Because of the long line, I like to add space after and do it that. Sometimes a little more. No matter what, you should add space after, I guess is what I'm saying. But if I have a list of just single lines, I don't use as much space after as I do when I have a list that also contains multi-lines. It's just kind of a choice that I make. Also, well, it also depends if I'm using a baseline grid, but we're not talking about that in graphic design. But these are the things that you have to think about when we're designing a list, right? It's not using just all the defaults, and also how do we separate this list? I know this symbol, its whole point is to separate the list, but I think it's also good to always add some space, right? Especially when we have multiple lines, because it really gets mucky. So that's just something to think about when styling lists.